Of all the lessons I've learned about people, the one that stuck hardest started with a door. Just a simple, heavy, stubborn steel door, and a man who'd rather pull a muscle than let someone else prop it open. Funny thing is, everything that happened afterward could have been avoided if he'd just let it go. But sometimes folks would rather dig in their heels and protect their pride than let a little common sense through. And when that happens, you get a ringside seat to something you'll never forget. At the time, I was hauling boxes for a small moving company in North Bay, a nothing fancy kind of outfit with 2 ancient trucks, a stack of plywood ramps, and a crew of guys powered by gas station coffee and dry sarcasm. That morning, our assignment was to clear out a warehouse full of metal shelving and wheel it all into a massive concrete building downtown, a leftover paper mill that still smelled like old oil and stories no one bothered to wipe away. We'd packed those 18-foot trucks so tight you'd have to whisper your prayers to squeeze them in. Every door in the place was locked up tight thanks to some recent trouble in the neighborhood, so I jogged over to the security desk inside. Darlene, the guard, looked like she'd seen it all and lived to tell the tale, but wasn't about to. She just handed me a worn-out black rubber wedge and said, "Stick this under the door so you don't buzz me every 30 seconds. Honestly, the smartest thing anyone would say all day. So I wedged that heavy steel door and got to work, pallets, rolling forklifts, clattering, my crew hollering over each other like that was just how you communicated. That's when he arrived. His name, I'd later learn, was Gerald. In the moment, all I saw was a flushed, angry fossil of a man storming down the hallway, shirt-wrinkled pants, baggy face set like he was ready for battle. He pointed at the door like it owed him money. "What do you think you're doing?" he barked, his voice cracking from years of expecting to be obeyed. I told him security said to prop it for the delivery. Wrong move. His face turned purple and he snapped, "I don't care what security told you. You will not leave that door open in my building." Something in me snapped too right then. Maybe it was the way he said my building, or maybe it was just one of those days where you're tired, you're sweaty, and some self-declared king picks a fight for no reason. So I smiled, shut the door, grabbed the wedge, and took it back to Darlene. She rolled her eyes and muttered, "That's just Gerald. He does this to everyone." She told me I could still prop the door, but the game had already changed. Now it was about something way pettier and way more human. Outside the loading bay, there was a buzzer. Press it, and security would call whoever worked that wing to come unlock the door. Gerald's office conveniently was right next door. So next pallet, I pressed the buzzer. Darlene answered. Gerald stomped down the hall, unlocked the door, glared at me. I just smiled and pushed the load through. We did it again and again and again, each time Gerald trudging down to let us in, each time sweatier, each time more frustrated. By the 5th time, he finally stopped breathing hard. "If you want to prop the door, just do it," he muttered. But by then it was past the point of no return. "Oh no, sir," I told him, laying it on thick. Wouldn't want to break any rules. The look he gave me, like a man who just punched himself in the jaw, was worth the 2 hours and 18 pallets. By the end, Gerald looked ready to collapse. That door taught me something: people with a little power will make life harder for everyone just so they can feel important. Once you see it, you spot it everywhere. Not long after, I scraped together enough to buy a house on the ragged edge of North Bay. Place wasn't much what I could afford after years of moving folks into nicer places. That's when I met the Riverside Estates Association. The name sounds posh, but it's just a pack of retirees with clipboards and too much free time. The house came with baggage, unpaid fees, half-built fences, scary legal liens that chased away other buyers. My lawyer untangled the mess, and I moved in. Trouble was, the inside was still a disaster. Last owner was a hoarder, rooms packed floor to ceiling. So I parked my old RV in the front yard and started cleaning. That's when the letters started. Notices about my unsightly RV, my dumpster, my grass, and naturally a suggestion I should join the HOA if I wanted to avoid trouble. At first I ignored it. Then they tried to tow my RV. That was the moment I realized Gerald wasn't unique, he was the template. Here's the thing: power assumes you don't know your rights. Riverside Estates banked on that. First time a tow truck showed up, I was in the RV eating a cold sandwich. Saw the orange lights out the window, stepped out in my socks and said, "Can I help you, Miguel?" The driver looked relieved when I told him the HOA had no say here. He gave me his card and shrugged. "I just go where they tell me, man." I called my lawyer. He called Miguel's boss. Suddenly there was a standing order: nothing gets towed from my address without my okay. Every time the HOA tried to flex, they got billed for a wasted trip. After a few $100, they stopped. But the letters kept coming, threats, fines, all tossed into a folder marked harassment. And there were my neighbors, Hank and Lorna. Never a hello, just, your trash is crooked. For 8 years, they found something new to whine about. One summer, they wanted to raise the shared fence from 7 feet to 9. Don't like feeling watched, Hank said, as if my kitchen window was a surveillance camera. I said no permits and all. They disappeared, came back, offered to pay. I said no again. That's when Hank leaned in and whispered, "Well, maybe we could forget to complain about your shed if you help us out here." That's when I learned some people see every rule as negotiable. I played along, spent the weekend sliding my shed 10 inches farther from the fence just to be sure. Monday came, I told them no, and that was that. Sometimes revenge is a tape measure and a quiet weekend. All this was nothing compared to my day job. I landed a desk job at a logistics firm, steady work, nothing fancy. When Craig showed up as manager after COVID, everything changed. I've got a severe allergy to alcohol-based products, sanitizer wipes, some soaps. It's not mild. It's grab the EpiPen or end up in the hospital bad. HR knew, union knew, Craig didn't care. He emailed, "Everyone uses the wipes, no exceptions." I reminded him of my allergy. He called me a liar. "You will follow procedure or be fired." HR told me to ignore it. Union said not to worry, but Craig didn't let it go. One morning he stood at my desk, sanitizer in hand. "Hold out your hands," he said. I refused. He grabbed my wrist, squirted it, scrubbed. I broke free. Throat closing, made it to my EpiPen just in time. Woke up to strange faces and flashing lights. Craig got fired and arrested. Restraining order followed. But the damage was done. Knowing someone would hurt you just to prove a point that sticks with you. By the time I got out of the hospital, I just wanted peace. Which is probably why what happened with my family hit so hard. Left home at 18, my parents used me like free labor. I got my own apartment, but the guilt trips didn't stop. For a while, I'd watch my younger siblings. The last straw, Mom dropped the kids on me all day, no warning. I said I wouldn't do it anymore unless I got paid. She lost it. Next morning, my Nintendo Switch was gone. Turns out Dad had it. You can have it back when you agree to help more. That's when it hit me, my life, my time, my stuff still belonged to them, at least in their minds. So I started dialing the police. Suddenly my Switch was handed back fast. Bullies get brave when there are no consequences. I walked out and that was that. The door, the HOA, my neighbors, my boss, my parents, all of them taught me the same thing. Entitlement is everywhere, and it only grows if you let it. But the real clincher that came in the dumbest way. We just lost Daisy, our old golden mix, the kind of dog whose absence makes the house feel smaller. After she was gone, my wife and I decided to give away all her stuff, bed bowls, toys, even unopened food. We posted it for free, thinking someone could use it. A couple, Mark and Shelby, showed up. They seemed decent. But when they saw how much stuff there was, Shelby asked if we'd pay the adoption fee for the dog they wanted at the shelter. "Since you're giving us all this, it just makes sense." She actually said that. I just stood there past anger, just tired. Tired from a lifetime of people treating kindness as a debt. I said no. Mark tried to guilt trip us. That's when it clicked. I was done letting people take and call it normal. So we packed everything up and drove it straight to the animal shelter, where a volunteer thanked us like we'd done something great. Maybe we had not because of the stuff, but because we got to choose where our kindness went. Driving home, I kept thinking about that old door in North Bay. Gerald sweating through his shirt. Riverside Estates blowing money trying to control something they didn't own. Hank and Lorna bartering the law. Craig risking my life for his pride. My parents holding my Switch hostage. Same story, different costumes, folks pushing, assuming you'll fold. And yeah, sometimes people do. Not everyone has fight in them. Not everyone knows the rules. Not everyone feels safe saying no. But once you do, once you realize you don't need permission to exist, their power shrinks fast. Now my house is livable. The RV's gone. Dumpster's gone. Riverside Estates acts like I vanished, which is perfect. Hank and Lorna avoid eye contact. Craig's a story told in hushed tones. My parents, just a closed chapter. Sometimes I think about Gerald and that door. How many folks go through life slamming into things they could have just let be if only they were a little kinder. So here's my question, because I know you've got your own stories, maybe about a boss, a neighbor, a landlord, or even family. Where's the line between patience and being a doormat? Between letting things slide and letting folks walk all over you? Was I right to push back, or did I just become the thing I was fighting? Let me know what you think down below. And if this reminded you of someone, share it. If you want more stories about ordinary folks standing their ground, stick around because there are always more doors in this world waiting to be opened or slammed shut.